Hi guys, I would like to talk about wildcard certificates today. I added a section to my article about manual mode, Certbot manual mode that allows you to generate Letsencrypt certificates. Wildcard certificates have some advantages over certificates for specific hosts, and I'm going to talk about what these advantages are. Before we dive in, please hit the subscribe button and the bell below the video so you get notified if I make similar videos. So let's see. So you have to go to the article, which is at Synkre.com SSL for your website, and scroll down to wildcard certificates. Unfortunately, when it comes to wildcard certificates, you cannot use the web challenge. We have to use the DNS challenge. This works the following way. You have to basically run certbot just like you ran certbot for the web challenge, which creates a piece of text. This is the command that you have to run, and then you have to install that piece of text in a text record in the DNS, and wait a little bit until the DNS record propagates, and once it propagates, then a certbot will find the DNS record, and by that it will know that that you have access to that domain, and you will be issued a certificate. So let's say before we actually generate the certificate, let's look at a number of things here that are specific and is worth talking about. One of them is that if you want to generate wildcard certificates for the root domain as well as your subdomains, then what you have to do is you have to list them both here. If you just say star.example.com, it's not going to generate certificates for example.com, only the subdomains. So make sure you do this if you want it for the root domain. The other thing to remember here is that it's going to take a while for this to come up live. So once, let's actually, we can actually start doing this. Copy the Docker command so you guys can see what happens. Copy the Docker command over. It's actually like this. It won't work because it has example.com, right? And that's not a valid domain. But what if I say tmp and I just say command. So let's just edit it here. We have to make sure that we give it a valid domain name. So I'm just going to use one of my domain names that I'm actually not using for anything right now. And this should be good enough to go. So now I copy this. By the way, just if you look at the Docker command, it's going to put the certificates into the volumes that you mount here, which is going to be in the temp directory. So beware if you're using Windows, you don't have a temp directory. You have to create one for this to work, or change this temp to something that actually does exist. I think the rest of it is pretty straightforward. And as to the question why we're using Docker, you could install certbot also if you wanted to, but by using Docker, you don't have to install anything if you have Docker on your system. So all you have to really do is take this command. I exit out of this, and now I say, I just copy it and double check to make sure everything is correct, and I hit enter. So it's downloaded the Docker image now. This is the official Docker image from Certbot. You guys don't have to create the image. All you have to do is reference it like this, and it's a really clean way of using Certbot. So what you guys can see here is that it generated two challenges. Both of them are DNS challenges. These are very similar, like I said, to the web challenge. If you guys did the web challenge based on the article, the first section or first part of the article, you will recognize that this is very similar stuff. It's just the mode of installing the well-known content that Certbot is going to be looking for is different, because you have to put it into the DNS. So now it's displaying this text here. What you have to do is take this text. So let's just look at that domain for now. the first thing we should do is just make sure that this is where we are instructed here to install this text, right? ACME challenge, functionalcoder.com, and it wants us to install this text. So one way to kind of make it visible what's happening is use a tool like this. Here's the URL, which will allow you to query the DNS, so you actually will see what's going on. If I look for the text record, I'm not finding the text record now, right? So what we will do is take this text, and I go into my hosting provider, which is NetFirms. I have to add a DNS record. That's what I have to do. So the DNS record name is going to be ACME challenge, and the type is going to be text. The content is going to be what I copied from here, right? And time to live, I'm going to give it half an hour because I'm impatient. I want to see the results as quickly as possible. So now I say add DNS, and it added the DNS record, the text record, to functionalcoder.com. I can see it here, right? I can see it here, but I won't be able to see it probably here yet because it takes a while to propagate. So there are a number of ways you can do it. You don't have to use this tool. I talk about it in the article. You can just wait. You can wait 30 minutes or whatever your parameters were when you added the DNS record. Or you could use NSLOOKUP, which I actually give the command here. If you use NSLOOKUP, it would look. I'm actually not going to do it because that would destroy the command over there. So, but what you can do is copy this, make sure you change example.com to your domain name, and this is also essentially going to display the same exact information as here, but from the command line. So it's your choice which you prefer. Okay, so the other thing to keep in mind is that you could use the web challenge theoretically for the root domain, but it will just complicate things for you. Since you're doing this for the subdomains anyway, it makes sense to just make both of them DNS challenges. It's just less work this way if you want it both for the subdomains and the root domain. Other than that, or the other thing to remember is if you look at the command, one of the differences when compared to the web challenge is that we had to add this this parameter. So if you look at the Docker command, we have this server parameter. This is required for the DNS challenge. So or for generating wildcard certificates anyway. I don't know if it's required for all DNS challenges actually. Okay, so while it's waiting, right, we have to wait until the text record is going to propagate in the DNS system. While it's waiting, let's talk about when it makes sense to use wildcard certificates. In some situations where you have a lot of subdomains, it makes things easier for you because it gets very tedious to generate certificates for every host. So these are the situations where you have the option of doing that, but it's actually easier if you use a wildcard certificate. There are situations, however, and this paragraph is about that point, where it actually would be really difficult if you didn't use wildcard certificates. That's pretty much the only way. One common architectural pattern is that when you put an application into the cloud, is that you have a live version of it and you have a testing version of it. So when you do that, it's nice to have the live version work uninterrupted and be usable by your customers or users while you work on the test version. And when you work out all the bugs, you can just simply swap the ingress or the DNS, and they change positions. The problem is that if you use HTTPS, that means that the boxes know who they are, because they have certificates for themselves, which is specific to the host. If you swap these hosts, you swap the test version with the production version, it will no longer work. This is an example of a situation when you have to use wildcard certificates. Pretty much any situation when you want to be able to swap hosts and you want them to still work, you have to use wildcard certificates. Okay, so let's see if a text record has propagated yet. Not yet, so we have to wait a little longer. Okay, so we have an answer. We can see that the record that shows up in this search is identical to what we gave it. This is what we wanted. Let's hope now that if I let the command go, Certbot will find it. It's not guaranteed actually, because it's possible that the tool we're using to query the DNS system uses DNS servers that get the records earlier, but it's a good indication anyway. So I hit enter here. What's happening here is that it's asking us to make sure that if we get any more prompts to install another text record, we have to do that. We get this because we actually asked it to do 2 challenges, so we're going to get a second prompt and we have to install that as well. Congratulations. Okay, so what happened was that the first time when it displayed the 2 challenges, it actually only did one of them, because it goes into this loop that once it does the first challenge, it will ask you to install a second piece of text for the second challenge. Again, one of the challenges is for the root server, for the root domain, and the other challenge is for the subdomains. That's why we had 2. So once I install the second challenge, and it actually shows both of them being there, the command went through and it created a certificate. So if we have, if we go into the directory we gave it, which is TMP at Letsencrypt. So if I say ls TMP etc Letsencrypt live, and here just pick the domain name, and basically you guys can see the certificates here. So that's all there is to it. Now you basically at this point you have a wildcard certificate that covers both the root domain and the subdomains, and you can use it to secure an entire set of hosts in one shot. Thank you for listening.